Carly Ries, welcome to the Star Coach Show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
We had so much fun in our exploratory call that I am so eager to spend more time with you now and really give coaches the value of it's difficult to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's even more difficult to be a solopreneur. So what do we choose to outsource? What's the sort of measure, like the ruler that we might use for deciding things like that? Are there things that we completely overlook because we get too caught up in our heads? I mean, Carly, we're going to talk about so many things. So let
Yes.
me tell all of you why it's Carly that I'm talking to about all these wonderful things. Carly is a marketing expert with nearly 20 years of experience. Now, get this, since 2020, she's been the fractional chief marketing officer for LifeStar. She is co-hosting the Aspiring Solopreneur podcast. So right there, Aspiring Solopreneur. Of course, she's going to be able to help us. And she's co-authoring the upcoming book. Ready for this? Solopreneur Business for Dummies. Yes, it's one of those for dummies books that is filled with great content. So, because of Carly's passion for helping solopreneurs really knock it out of the park, and we all know that here at the Star Coach Show, I have a huge passion to help you get your work into the world, to help you build thriving businesses. When they reached out and said, "Do you want Carly on the show?" I looked over and then I met her and was like, "Yes, we want her on the show." So, Carly, super excited to have you here. But as we dive into my interview with Carly and all the great things she's going to share with you, I just want to remind all of you, wherever you're listening, whether it's on audio, where across the platforms, take a minute and subscribe. Follow the show so you never miss a minute of it. If you are watching us right now on YouTube, we're super excited to have you in the visual as well. And leave a comment below the video. Let us know what was helpful. Be sure to click that subscribe button because the Star Coach Show brings content over and over and over, and you will get alerted to that because we want to offer you strategies, tools, and resources to help you flourish. That's why we're here. That's why I have great guests like Carly. So with that, I just realized I pointed at you on my where you're supposed to be, but it's backwards on my screen. So now it's like this. Okay. So with that being said, let's dive into this. When we think about smart outsourcing tips, where do you want to begin even setting the stage for this?
You know, to start, it's a mindset thing for coaches and any solopreneur. They think that flying solo in business means that you have to do it all alone. And we recommend the opposite of that. You don't have to hire employees, but you should certainly hire contractors. And the thing is, a lot of people either leave their jobs or just start out as a solopreneur uh, with an idea in mind. And they're like, I want to get this product out there. I want to be a coach. And I love coaching, but I don't love taxes. I don't know how to do marketing. I know how to help people. I don't know how to do all these other things. And then they end up spending so much of their time researching how to do Facebook ads, researching how to use QuickBooks for solopreneurs, which many coaches there is QuickBooks for solopreneurs now. And they end up not being able to launch their business and doing what they really, really love, which is coaching and helping people. And so I think number one is mindset. Mindset. You do not have to do this alone.
Right. And I will say to people, what's your genius work? If you lean into your genius work and let other people lean into their genius work, all that genius together is bound to create some wonderful traction for your business.
Yes, and there's something also just so beautiful about working with other contractors. Sure, you can hire a firm to help, an accounting firm to help with your taxes and a marketing firm, but there's just something special about creating relationships with other small business owners or other people that are in your shoes that, like you said, did you say zone of genius?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, helping one another, it's just a really magical feeling. So I say mindset is first. From there, figure out what you just don't have time to do. So I'm just going to keep talking about taxes and marketing because every business
It's
needs to
tax
market.
season too.
Exactly. And it's tax season on the brain. Um, but figure out what you're not going to be good at. I am not a numbers person. I am a marketer. So aside from analytics, I've always been the English person and the learning a language in school and all of that. So that was my first thing to do was just to hire a CPA. So figuring out things that you don't think you'll be good at, but also as a coach and working for yourself, you get to form a business that you enjoy running. I think the biggest thing for coaches and for solopreneurs is that they may be leaving a job they didn't like or leaving a lifestyle they didn't like. So outsource things that just don't bring you joy and really do what you can to coach and to do what you're really good at. Um, I think something that
Also, what creates income for you, right? So,
does.
there's
Thank you.
if you're spending all your time doing the non-income producing activities, um, you are going to have a hard time ever leveraging your business or getting your income up. And so it's sort of like, okay, I could do my own tax. No, I couldn't. It just gives me a rash to think about doing my own taxes. So let's say I could do my own YouTube marketing. Does
Yes.
that? But I could hire somebody who's really good at doing that. And then during the time that I would be doing that, I could take on an additional client.
Exactly. So, for example, you have this podcast. I also host a podcast, as you were talking about earlier. If I spent all my time editing the clips and working through the transcript and blah, 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 that could take your whole day. And
Well,
so,
and you guys would not have a podcast. If that were the case, you would not be listening to the Star Coach show right now. I promise you.
right, right. So it's just thinking about those things that are time sucks. And instead of editing that, because we have a wonderful editor that does it for us, we can focus on, okay, what's that next big ticket item? Let's review what worked this month, what didn't work this month, and go from there. And just really doing the things that you have to do rather than the things that you could review the ads, you can review,
Right.
hopefully you're reviewing your tax prep stuff. um,
Yes. Yes.
but you really can just save so much time. And a big thing that people get concerned about especially when they're starting out as a coach is income. I mean,
Right.
it's so nice to be like, oh yeah, Carly, great advice. Who's going to pay these people and who's going to
Right.
do all this?
That was going to be my next question. Carly and I are in sync.
We are so in sync. I know. I feel like we've been friends forever, Meg. So, I one is trade is always an option. Like I said, if you're working with if you're a coach and you're working with a marketer, maybe offer them some free coaching sessions and in return, they can get your website up for you. I mean, so many people need coaches these days.
Right.
So
And a
really just
win-win. And just a little note of that. If you barter coaching like that, that is paid coaching for those of you who are keeping a coaching log. I know we can only have so much pro bono. If you barter like Carly's talking about, that is considered paid coaching. Very
yes.
important for your coaching log.
There you go. Thank you so much for bringing that up. But the other thing is, and this isn't outsourcing for a business, but we do live in the age of AI, and like it or not, we do need to be embracing it. So, if you're like, gosh, I just really can't afford a marketer right now, or I really can't give out more coaching sessions for free, ChatGPT does, I hate to say it because I'm a marketer and I don't like
Right.
AI taking things that I used to do, but it really is a great tool to be like, spin out a funny subject line for this email, spin out a funny tagline for this ad, and have a conversation with it. My co-host Joe Rando and I, or my co-host Joe Rando, not myself, he
Yeah.
actually created a chat GPT that argues with him. So he'll put something in there and he'll be like, the sky is blue. And it'll come back, well, what about when it's sunset? What about when it's overcast? Blah, 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 blah. And it can argue with you to kind of make you think through things. And so you can really form this chat GPT to do whatever you need it to do if you invest the time in it. So you have to look at outsourcing not just for other people, but outsourcing with technology these days,
Resources.
which
Yeah.
is crazy.
It
You
is crazy, but and crazy good. Yet I would encourage you, like I think that AI has grown incredibly, like, it really can be a great resource. And I challenge all of you to make it your own. So don't be lazy with it. When you put it in, like, what might you tweak? What might you do to make it a little more of your own? And at the same time, there's nothing worse, right, Carly, than that like empty page syndrome.
Oh,
Like, oh, I've got to put out a post, but I have no idea what to do. I mean, just like throw some ideas in there. What post could I do about the ocean being full of fish? I mean,
right.
I don't know. And
Exactly.
yeah,
It is so great for writer's block, for any kind of block, just to get those creative juices flowing again. But again, if you give it the details it needs and you need to create a content calendar for the next month for your marketing, it could spit that out in 5 seconds. All you have to do is review it, make sure it's in your voice. You can train AI to speak in your voice.
yeah,
And I mean, that's what did that used to take us coming up with a content calendar like that? I mean, days, so many hours. And I know some people are still resisting the AI movement, but everybody's doing it. So you would just be getting left behind at this point if you're not using it and missing out on that profitable time to grow your business and grow your client base. So
I
I say
love
use
that.
it.
I would love that. It's okay. I'm going to share a quick story because I think it's going to really resonate with the coaches here. I was just on a session with a client who happens to be a coach right before we jumped on, Carly, and she's stuck in a place of confidence. She's new. She's still doing her old job. She's really wanting to transition into coaching and all those stories that we tell ourselves, right? Am I going to be good? Are people going to want to work with me? Maybe I'm not good, and all the insecurities, all the stories and I asked her, how clear are you about what you do? She's a very accomplished person who has a very specific niche. And while we were talking, I just pulled up my favorite tool, which is Claude,
Mm.
and typed in a value proposition for this kind of coach working with these kinds of people. And bloop, in milliseconds, it brought it up. And I said, what does this do to trigger your clarity? Because we were talking about the fact that as long as she's unclear about what she does and the results she gets. So first I said a value proposition. And then I said, what kinds of results might these clients see? So then I was able to just send that to her and say, noodle on this. Think about what does this do around clarity? But to your point, if we're going to get our message out there as solopreneurs, if we're going to be working with a particular, we all, I believe, really need to define who it is that we work with and the results that we get. AI help. Now I said, don't take this verbatim, like take it and see what works and tweak it. But it got her off that. I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to say
Yes,
this.
I know. I know. It just gets you out of your rut, which I mean, a rut could really impact your business if you get stuck on it for a good amount of time. So it may seem like so like, oh, I have to think of this tagline for this ad. It may seem like such a small thing in the grand scheme of things. But if you're thinking about it for 2 hours and it's taking up the rest of your mental space, it's making a bigger impact than, and it's just pointless work at that point. There's a difference
Exactly.
between being productive and being busy. And it would keep you occupied, but it wouldn't move the needle.
Love that. So
Yeah.
what else should we think about when we're thinking about really creating a business that works for us rather than against us, that sort of works within our life?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to reverse engineer your business to really answer that question. Have you heard about the fisherman story, the Mexico fisherman story?
No, tell us.
So there's this parable where a businessman from New York goes down to Mexico, and there's this great fisherman there. He's just having a casual day. It's so beautiful. And the businessman's like, you should um, really scale this business. You're so great. You're getting the best fish. You should add people. You should turn it into this huge enterprise, and it'll make you millions. And the fisherman said, well, then what? And the businessman goes, well, then you can retire and you can live in a fishing village and spend ample time with your family and enjoy the nice days. And the fisherman goes, well, that's what I'm doing. And so I think you need to think about your ideal lifestyle and reverse engineer from that. And I'm so sorry, Meg, can you rephrase the question? Because I feel like I got so hung up on that story that I totally lost my train of thought.
I was just saying, what should we be thinking about when, as solopreneurs, to really begin to create the kind of life we want using, this aspect of outsourcing resources, those kinds of things?
Yeah. So I'm glad I told that story because you need to reverse engineer it. Going back to the outsourcing as well, I think you need to start small with outsourcing because if it's one thing to outsource to free up your time, it's another thing to outsource to take up all your time. Because if you outsource for marketing, for anything that we've been talking about at the same time, well, then your day just turns into review processes. And
Right.
you don't want that either. So I say start with the lowest hanging fruit, the thing that you really need to get off your plate that you need for your business, but that you don't need to do. And it is essential that you create scopes of work for that and record them because you might find the best VA that you could work with or marketer, whoever, but there's not a chance that they'll stay around forever. I mean, maybe there's a chance, but there is some turnover with independent
Right.
contractors. And you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time you have to work with somebody. So it's a lot of work up front, but documenting your processes, write them down, do a Loom video, show the person exactly what it is. One, you'll have that in your back pocket for anybody else that
Mhm.
turns over. But also, if they have any questions, you could be like, "Oh, I mentioned that in the video," and then that way, it's less back and forth. But really starting small with these contractors and putting together these scopes of work, that is also key to freeing up your life and what you need to do, because otherwise you could be, like I said, in the review process. Um, in terms of finding these contractors, there are places you can look locally or like domestically. You could look internationally, depending on your price point. But what I always say when you're trying to vet these
Yes.
contractors is I would pay them to do a test project for you, pay them to get work done. They're still doing you a service. I've known so many people that they've started outsourcing with unpaid projects, and it's like that's not a good way to kick off a relationship.
Right.
Like
Right.
if you want them to write blog posts for you or whatever, have them write a blog post, pay them for their time, and then kind of vet them that way. Because if you want them to do good work for you, you need to treat them well too. It's again, if you partner with another solopreneur, you want it to be mutually beneficial. So treat
So
them well
key.
and pay them.
Right. And just because you connect with somebody, like you like them, or do look for examples of their work or pay them to do work. I don't know how many times I've sort of hired somebody based upon a recommendation but didn't vet fully
Mhm.
and ended up regretting it. So it's a win-win. It's well worth the investment to pay them to do something and see, because it's not necessarily that there's anything wrong with their work. It just might not be my vision, right? So
Right.
if I want my business represented by my vision, I need to be clear about what that vision is. Those standard operating procedures, so important. But at the same time, this person, is their vision the same as my vision? And if not, are they able to tweak it, or are we just not a fit? And it's okay. All those things are okay. You
Yeah.
just have to, it's your business. So what's representing your business?
Well, and on that same note, like, I mean, I was talking about domestically versus internationally. Time zone can be a problem. I mean, if you need
Mhm.
something that's within the hour or whatever of a person you're working with, if somebody's in the Philippines, they may be incredible at their job and they're the exact person you're looking for. But if there's a 12-hour lag in response time, I mean, you just have to factor all these things in with your business and with
Right.
your lifestyle. And that's why I say reverse engineer, start with your goal, your why you're even doing this business, and then work everything backwards from there. And just think how you want to spend your days. You have the luxury. Do you want to spend 8 hours a day coaching, which can be draining, but
Yes.
lucrative? Or do you want to spend part of your day coaching, another part of your day going to your kids' soccer games or whatever.
Right.
And then just working backwards from an outsourcing standpoint based off of the lifestyle you want to live. Because as an independent coach, you can do that.
Exactly. And what are the things maybe you enjoy writing blog posts or um, even creating content for social media posts, but you don't enjoy like putting it together and putting it out there or whatever. What are the things that light you up? It's okay that you as a solopreneur hold on to the things that light you up.
Mhm.
And everything has a process, right, Carly? I mean, it's like I'll say to coaches, create a lead magnet, create it. Well, just the process of that means emails and that means the actual lead magnet and the design and the, how's it going to go out and the landing page and so everything is a process, which is where we go with that standard operating procedures.
And it takes some pressure off of you. And again, putting together these standard operating procedures can seem like such a drag when you're doing it. I mean, nobody wakes up and is like, I cannot wait to document my processes, right? But I know for me, one of the first times that I actually needed these is I was going on maternity leave a few years ago. And I was dragging my heels. I was like, I'm a contractor, and so I technically didn't have to, but I wanted to make sure that the people that were taking over my position knew what I was doing. And I was just dragging my feet. I didn't want to do it. There were so many other things that were top of my list. And then finally, I was just like, you know what? I have to get it done. I don't know what my inspiration was the day that I actually did it, but I ended up having to leave a month earlier than I had anticipated. And thank goodness I had those processes in place because otherwise nobody would have known what to do. I was not in a position to respond, nor did I want to respond. And if I didn't have those, I mean, I really would have, it would have been detrimental to the business
Mhm.
because a lot of things would have fallen through the cracks. And hopefully people don't need these scopes of works, but if you had to take some time away from work and you had
Right.
these processes in place, it makes it a lot easier. Even if you weren't outsourcing at the time, it makes it a lot easier to be like, hey, I need you to do this for the next 2 weeks. I know you're a wonderful marketer. Can you take this over for me? All of the information is right here.
Right.
And just things like that. So it's for running your business, but it's also for helping you run your business in your absence if you need it, which people don't often
Love
think
that.
about.
Right. Or that you're setting the people that you're hiring up for success when you give them the details of what you really want versus just assuming that they understand what that process would look like for you. I
Yeah.
promise you, whether they are expert in whatever they do, you have an idea of how you want it done for you that might be different. And so then rather than just being frustrated that they're not doing it the way you want, at least have that conversation.
Yeah. And when you're putting these processes together, I mean, let's say you're hiring a VA, like just a general virtual assistant to handle your inbox or just any tasks that you can hand off. You don't realize it, but you use a lot of jargon in your everyday chat. I mean, I know at one point I was like, what's the status on the SEO and PPC? And anybody else would be like, what are you talking about? And it's like search engine optimization and pay-per-click. I told a friend of mine that I was a fractional CMO. And she looked terrified and didn't understand why I was qualified. And she's a dermatologist and she thought I was saying I was a chief medical officer. And I was like, no, I'm a chief marketing officer. And I mean, she was just like, if people like you are running like the medical side of things, like we're in big trouble. And so just really like making sure you're almost speaking to a kindergartner when you're going through these
Yes.
processes, because you're a wealth of information that seems so basic and normal to you, but it's not to everybody. And you just have to remember that because remember, it is your zone of genius,
Right.
and that's and not everybody else's. So, um,
So good.
big takeaway there.
Big takeaway. So one of the things that I think about when we think about being solopreneurs, and we've talked about the fact that we like to do what it is that we do, not necessarily all the pieces that go along with it. One of the things that I also find that coaches sort of get wrapped up in sometimes, and I'd love your feedback about, is the magnitude, right? So it's sort of like, I need to be on every platform everywhere. And my question is like, well, how many people do you really want to work with? So I mean, like, what are your thoughts about this?
Oh,
Like, this is like, I can't do anything because I have to do everything, and it's sort of like,
Meg, this is
mm,
one of my favorite questions because in terms of like whittling things down, which is why we're writing the Solopreneur for Business book, by the way, is because people will go to marketing books and it'll be like, here's how to do an email campaign. Here's how to do search engine optimization. And these are all great things. But if you need like 4 clients, that might just be a huge waste of time. I mean, again, and this is coming from a marketer, but I often don't recommend SEO, search engine optimization, um, or how people find you in search results as a number one tactic because that is a marathon and not a sprint. Certainly, you want the basics set up on your website and everything, but in terms of putting a lot of time and effort into it, your time as a solopreneur can be so much better spent elsewhere. And one of the things I like recommending to people is to let people know what you do. I know that is the easiest, like, it's like, oh yeah, obviously, Carly. But I
and
remember,
yet so many people don't.
no, and it's because they get nervous that they're going to come off salesy. And I get it. When you're talking to your friends, you don't want to give a pitch of like, well, here's what I'm up
Right.
to these days. It feels sleazy. But my funniest story about this is about a decade ago. And I was at my parents' house and they had some friends over and I was in the other room. And they're like, well, what does Carly do? And they were like, oh, well, she's working for an ad agency and she's the creative director. Neither of which were true. I did not work for an advertising agency, and I've never been a creative director. I've always been on the strategy side. And I realized, like, oh my gosh, if I don't tell people, they can't assume. They have no idea what I like, what my line
They'll
of work
just
is
fill in
like.
the blanks.
Yes. And so the biggest thing I say is look at your lowest hanging fruit, shoot them an email once a quarter, your personal connections, and say, hey Meg, oh my gosh, how was your trip to so and so? I hope it was wonderful. Just want to fill you in on what I was doing. I'm in marketing right now, or I'm a coach, and I'm trying to help this demographic of people. I don't know why, but you came into my mind about this because I know you've been like so involved with this community. Please let me know if there's anybody you would recommend because it may not be the person themselves, but just like a friendly,
Right.
hey, this is what I'm up to. And that way they're like, oh, Meg, I had no idea that's who you were targeting. Actually, I do have somebody. And it's a low-hanging fruit. These are your friends, these are your
Right.
family. Go there first. If you can get 4 or 5 clients from there, why go and do a bunch of blog posts or
Right.
spend money on advertising that you don't need to be spending? So I always say start there. Um, Social media is obviously a just it's social media. I mean, that's
Right.
just part of the marketing world these days.
Right.
But I see so many people just putting posts out there thinking that that's going to get traction. And the online world has never been noisier, never been more crowded. And so when you go to social these days, don't just post. I have honestly found so much more traction by going in and putting genuine comments on people's posts, not like, oh, that sounds like a plan, or just a like or something, but going in and being like, hey, I saw this post. I actually have this resource that I read this, or I read this book the other week, and it might solve your problem. Check it out. And just like get on people's radar and turn social media platforms into true communities. And if you look at it that way as a relationship builder and not a
Yes.
promotional tool, it really does change the way you view social media. I personally hate social media. I am an elder millennial. I missed the boat on the whole like TikTok and everything train, but I really do love it for relationship building. So I think that is huge. And it's not how people often view social. They just think they have to generate content, which if that's all you're doing, you're not really going to make a lot of strides, I don't think, as a coach. I don't know. Do you agree?
You know, I love the idea of really looking for who you're connected with that you can provide value to, and comment on what they're doing. I think that I believe that it's helpful to put like to begin to build a little bit of visibility, but to Carly's point, there's so much out there. But I like seeing a post, from to see what they're doing. It kind of helps me see what my connections are doing as well. And I don't think enough emphasis is put on that connection, the relationship building.
Mhm.
So maybe instead of spending all your time creating content that you don't know for sure how it's going to land, you take half that time and be intentional about giving some quality feedback. I love that tip.
Yeah, and that's a great clarification. Absolutely still put content out there, but don't solely rely on that. Because you
Yes.
want to, because people are going to do their background research on you. So you want to seem credible. But in terms of building your client list, getting those leads,
Right.
that interaction, I think it's funny because I mean, I was just singing AI's praises, but in the age of AI, you also have to be more human than ever. And
Right.
so I think use AI to get those pointless tasks off of your plate and use it to embrace those personal one-on-one connections. Go have coffee with somebody in your
Hmm.
community. Host a virtual event where you can like share your knowledge with other people and build up that credibility. I mean, use AI to be more human. If I mean, honestly, and if people can feel that connection with you, and the great thing about being a solo coach is you are your business. People are more likely to buy from people than they are to buy from brands. And so I think you
Hmm.
need to use that to your advantage and find the human side in everything that you're doing to help grow your client list.
So good. So I'm hearing clearly, look for your low-hanging fruit. You
Mm.
can't be a secret and a success at the same time. You hear me say that all the time, audience. So in that, like, let the people closest to you know what it is that you're doing, and and they might very well have somebody in their circle looking just for you. But also that concept of what other resources are available, whether it's in people, in technology, in books. I mean, like, what are the resources that you're using? Because as a solopreneur, it can get really isolating. And that's how come I loved what Carly said also about, if you can outsource a task or use AI to like open up some of your time, do some connection, then reach out to somebody and actually go and have a coffee with them, or rub elbows, because it gets lonely.
It does get lonely, and having that coffee, it feeds the soul. I mean, you get that interaction, you get a potential lead gen opportunity. It's a win-win across the board. And so step out away from your computer. And obviously I mean, you and I are recording virtually right now. We're in separate states and there's a great time for virtual connections. But if you're trying to do one-on-one coaching in person or anything, then you need to be out there. And again, in terms of finding just those 5, 6, 7 clients that you need to get the lifestyle you want, again, that reverse engineering to figure out how many clients you need, get involved in your community, get involved in online groups. That way you don't have to be salesy, but you're just a part of the community. I know a real estate agent who just is in every group under the sun that you can think of in our city. And she just has this constant stream of leads and buyers and sellers because she's just friends with people. And so when she's at this function, it's like, oh yeah, like she's hanging out with her buds, but they're like, oh, I forgot I have a friend that's selling a house. I'll pass it along. So just be out there. I know that can be really intimidating for introverts, and
Yes.
easier said than done for I'm an extrovert. So I get that I'm like there is a great percentage of the population where they're like, I don't want to be out there. But you can do that virtually too. I mean, there are plenty of
Hmm.
opportunities to get involved online. And I think that the easier you can make the sales process for yourself, the better for your business. Because again, sales and lead gen can take up so much time. So make it fun for
Right.
yourself.
Because, you do want to thrive at doing what you're passionate about, which is coaching. So we do need to find that happy middle ground in how am I getting the word out of what I'm doing, so that I can do. Because if all you are is passionate about coaching, that's great, but you have to have clients to be able to do that. That
Yes.
doesn't mean that you need to have every person who looks at your LinkedIn post hire you, because you couldn't service all those people anyway.
No, no.
So let's put things in perspective.
But I do want to shed light from an outsourcing standpoint that I forgot to mention earlier is uh, coaches, solopreneurs, they can ride the wave of clients, right? Like some days they are at their max capacity and they're stressed, and then other days they're crying because they can't find a client.
And they're
And so
stressed. Yes.
so stressed, yes, and understandably so. But it's easy to drop your outsourcing when you're on the high wave and when you're at
Ah,
max capacity because you're like, well, I have my clients. If I have my clients, I can be making even more money by saving on this VA and not having them right now or not working with the marketing consultant right now. But I would argue that's when you need them the most because you need that pipeline. Because if you are just relying on these clients and then one day they decide not to be your clients, and then you had dropped all these contractors you were working with and are just kind of not only do you not have clients, but you also don't have people to trade with, hire, or anything like that, or contract with, then that's a really tough place to be. So I would say when you're at your peak of client load and everything, keep these people on. It's a great time to train. It's a great time to finesse and refine your processes with them. But if you can afford it, or if you can maintain the trade, don't let it go because it makes me so sad when I hear these incredibly talented solopreneurs like consider going back to corporate America because they didn't think about that pipeline
right.
when everything was good.
Right. And it's a whole lot easier to pay for help and get that help going when you have a full caseload, or when then when it's all scarcity, scarcity. So even though it might be tempting to say, oh, I'm doing great. Well, what are the tasks that are pulling away from your time that you could give to somebody else to do? And that's the great time to do it. So we don't need to be feast or famine all the time. Feast or
No,
famine, feast or famine. That's very, because did you notice that Carly said stressed when they're overloaded and stressed when they have not, that we need to find eustress. We need to find that good balanced stress, which means that we're paying attention to all those elements all the time so that we're more
yes.
even keel.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, if your lead gen machine is working in the background and you're at capacity, when do people want us the most? When they can't have you. So that's either the time to generate a wait list if you can accommodate that with your type of business, or that's a time to increase your prices. And if you have all these people knocking at your door and you can't accommodate them, raise your rates. Some of them might drop off, but then you can accommodate the ones that can afford you and it's a win-win because you have more time and
Right.
higher prices. So yeah, so don't
And
drop.
you could always think about doing some kind of a new offer at that point too. If you've got more people than you have space for, would a group work for those people? Would providing some of what you do one-on-one through a group setting work, and then have it be hybrid with some one-on-one and some group? So get creative.
Yes, yes, it's a fun time to be running a business when you reach that point. So just make sure you keep that momentum going by keeping every single process that you put in place still in the works.
Love it. Okay, we're getting close to the end of our time. So I just want to see what would be like if people are walking away and you want them to remember one thing, or, what do we want to be sure is sticky?
My favorite line, flying solo in business doesn't mean you're alone. So rely on other contractors for that moral support, rely on them to do trades with. Just build a community for yourself. Surround yourself with people that can help your business and just do not try to do this alone. It is so lonely. It's so hard. I find that it's not until you jump into solopreneurship do you realize how little you actually know about running a business. So navigating that by yourself is just so hard. So collect those people around you, work with other contractors, and yeah, you're not alone. Far from.
You're not alone. And community is so important, and connection. And, on that note, if you are a coach and you're trying to do it all alone, take a moment to look at the Star Coach community. We would love to have you as part of this network of coaches that are thriving. So starcoachshow.com/community. With that, Carly,
Mhm.
how can people connect with you?
Oh, well, you can find me at LinkedIn. I'm Carly Ries, Ries. You can listen to our show, The Aspiring Solopreneur, any way you listen to podcasts. And go to LifeStar, that's with two R's, lifestar.com/intro. We have this platform for you where you can go in, meet other solopreneurs, but also have access to problem-solving events where we all bring a challenge that we're facing and brainstorm ways to solve it together. We have educational events, all are free. We have a solopreneur success checklist you can gain access to kind of give you step-by-steps on how to succeed as a solopreneur. Um, and you'll get our newsletter and it's all free. So lifestar with 2rs.com/intro.
Excellent. We will have links, all those links that Carly was just talking about, in the show notes for this episode. Carly, thank you so much for being a part of the Star Coach Show.
Oh, Meg, this was so much fun. I'm a huge fan of the show, so thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And if you're a huge fan of the Star Coach Show, it would be nice if I could put my words in order. Take a minute and subscribe wherever you listen, and leave a rate and review. That's how other people find the show. I truly believe that we are all here on this earth together for a reason, and that's to do the heavy lifting together. Not everything is your genius work. There are things that are other people's genius work, and when you support them and they support you, we just begin to work together and be dynamic and shine. And that's what it's all about. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And until next week, this is Meg Rentschler wishing you the very best for your success. Be sure to come back next week. Take care. And thanks again to Carly Ries.